Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Liam's Hockey. Starting off a new week here on February 8th, 2021. And as mentioned last week, when I finished up and said my new show, which would commence today, would have an announcement of our title sponsor. And I said it would be no surprise. And for anybody who knows me or has followed pretty much anything I've done independent of any radio and TV stuff or writing that I've tried to pursue as a living in the last bunch of years. If there's been something I've done independent, the odds are to support it and sponsor it in any way, shape, or form has been Hosey and Brown. Hosey and Brown Auto Electric, Hosey and Brown Automotive, or just Hosey and Brown. The fact is, it's a family-owned and operated business. Has been for 45 years. I believe it started 45 years ago. Currently run and operated by my dear friend Rod Brown, who we are St. Pius classmates. He was there for 4 years. I did the 5th. I did the extra lap there in grade 13, which, as we all know, no longer exists. But very close friend, an unbelievable businessman, and a guy who has continually over time supported my cause. And in this case here, this is simply survival. It's really what it is. I have got to get until the pandemic lifts and I can get back to doing what I do, which is working in front of crowds, not the least of which is at the Rideau Carleton Raceway, as I've written and most of you know is my new gig when we do start, and we are able to start, I should say. Really looking forward to, and who knows? It's got to be at least 6-8 months away, I think, still. And so here we are. So the game plan is to roll these puppies out, at least 2 a week, and on occasion 3, because I think I am going to follow up and do some historical context ones, and have some fun with that. So that's the game plan. Hosey and Brown. What I'm going to do with them going forward is starting with the next show, which will be later this week, is what Rod would like to do, and through his excellent sales staff, is we will be honoring a couple of garages that are their key clients, jobbers, whatever you want to call them. And most of these are now places that I'm quite familiar with. During my time, even working previously, I've done a bunch of different things for Hosey and Brown and with them over the years in terms of promotions and all sorts of cross promotions with myself and Rod and the garages. So starting next show, I'll be contacting the one and only Reese Richards, and we will start funneling out the names and locations and some key data on some of the key jobbers for Hosey and Brown. These are great places, great garages, and it'll be my pleasure to give them a shout out here, courtesy of the parent company that supplies their auto parts. And if you are looking for auto parts, as many people like to tinker on their vehicles, then give one of their locations a call. Hosey and Brown. Rod Brown, thank you. So that is the news on my title sponsor, taking us right through until the Stanley Cup is awarded. Very proud and honored to announce that, because he is such a very, very dear friend. Him, his wife Tracy, his 3 daughters, and I believe Rod now expecting, I think it's grandchild number 4. Might even be 5. There's so many. The girls are doing well. They're healthy, and life is good there. So that's all good. So thank you, Rod. Just some hockey stuff here as we roll out Liam's Hockey here. No doubt the talk of the weekend, the absolute disgusting thing that happened between Carolina and Columbus. The goal that was challenged, that was scored, that was challenged by John Tortorella and the coaching staff of the Columbus Blue Jackets, deemed to be a good goal, scored by Trocheck, and then subsequent to that, as the story has now come out, a communication breakdown actually on the microphone as it was being relayed to the people in the penalty box, and subsequently to the 2 linesmen who were digesting this information, getting it in the ear, heard incorrectly. Well, what was said was correct, but it wasn't said as a finality that the goal was good, but it was taken that way by them, given to the referee, who signaled good goal, which means Columbus gets a penalty, the goal counts, and the period comes to an end when a additional footage surfaced, which the NHL now say they were still in the process of looking at and digesting when an intern or something of this sort erroneously said after the first couple of replays that they had a good goal. Most of you probably have heard the story. Most of you have probably either regurgitated yourself or have heard somebody else in the fine world of hockey already do the same. There's no doubt about it. What happened after, with 44 or 45 seconds left in the penalty to start the next period, it was withdrawn and the penalty was rescinded, what was left of it, but the goal counted. So a screw up, maybe the most epic screw up. It is right up there. I mean, this is something that's actually maybe pushing out the non-call by Kerry Fraser on Wayne Gretzky for high-sticking Doug Gilmour in 1993. Although probably not to any Leaf fans. But that's how bad a mess this was. Why they didn't feel they could take the goal off the board, yet they could take the penalty, is beyond me. I guess, look, they were probably full-on panic mode at that time. And folks, this isn't one of these scenarios where the skate, okay, they changed that rule. No, this was both feet, both skates, well over the line, like this much over the line. I once caught a fish this big. No, I mean, this was legit offside. We're talking Brent Sutter, 1980. We're talking Steve Yzerman, Game 1, World Cup Final, 96. We're talking massively offside. We're talking not quite Matt Duchene offside, which led to the whole offside thing we're sort of under right now, even though they've changed the one with the skate in the air and whatever. But that would have to be the number one story from the last 72 hours. I don't think there's any doubt about that. They play again tonight. It'll be the talk of the pregame, I'm sure. Most in Canada will not be watching. There's you've got four Canadian teams in action tonight. Toronto will beat up on Vancouver again, and Ottawa and Edmonton should be a good one. Mike Smith making his first start of the season. Touch on that in a second. So here we are with definitely the number one debacle moment, and arguably one of the worst in NHL history. And, you know, forget about everything else. Let's just finish by saying this. You set the precedent by taking away the rest of the penalty minute time. My late father used to always say, "It's only a tragedy if you don't learn from it, son," as he had to say to me on more than one occasion. And I would say right now to the NHL, this is only a tragedy if you don't learn from it. What if? Like, set the standard here going forward. What if something was to happen, and for any way, shape, or form, even after play had started, it was deemed to be incorrect? Set the standard right now that the goal should be taken off too. In this case here, rescind the penalty, what was left, put the time back on the clock, and take the goal off. What hockey fan, even the most ardent of Carolina Hurricane fans, would have said no to that? So, but no, head up, but securely, and away they went. Now maybe in hindsight they could sit around, and of course their comments post after, and I hate to hear it, right? It's from Colin Campbell, who I know a little bit. I know he's been there since, since black and white TV. It almost seems how Colin Campbell's been on the staff there for a long time. This guy is highly respected off-ice, pretty much highly respected off-ice hockey official. He got in some trouble in the past with the emails that went around and all the stuff that we talk about with the headshots and everything today. But that aside, I mean, the guy was a hell of a character hockey player, and I think his time in the coaching vein in the National Hockey League, I mean, he's put his time in, and he's obviously been a league executive for many, many years. And I respect the man, and as I said, I know him a little bit, and I hate to see the egg on the face for guys that I respect, and I do respect them. And these jobs aren't easy, but for the league to come out through him and say, look, we're an easy target, they being the NHL, we being the NHL. I mean, yeah, you are, because you have replay, and you're expected to get it right with replay. There's already so much vagueness with, we seem to have maybe finally moved beyond the goaltending in the crease controversies, hitting the goaltending. We haven't seen any controversy around that lately. We certainly have had with offsides. Now we have numerous headshots, yes or no, and people agreeing, disagreeing, and all that controversy. So that seems to be the number one topic, and then this came along. So, as I said, I think if you've now made the precedent of rescinding penalty minute time because you definitively made a mistake, make the statement right now that in the event anything was to transpire again to show that the play that was called and reviewed and officiated as such was definitively incorrect, take the goal off the board. This is not, you're not making a change in somebody's life, whether they live or die here, but it's big business, it's pro sports. Do the right thing. And I think that's what any hockey fan would want to see. The right thing for a lot of Ottawa Senator fans the next time they play the Montreal Canadiens would be some fisticuffs. You got a lot of irate Sens fans, and I don't disagree with them. The young German star, Mr. Jimmy Stu, Tim Stützle, took quite a physical pounding and was a recipient of some illegal plays, which led to penalties, and definitely was a target of interest for the Montreal Canadiens in their bounce-back victory over Ottawa. We teed up when I last did Liam's Hockey here saying there's never been a time in the history of the Sens when they went in playing the Montreal Canadiens as such vast underdogs, and yet they got a win, and probably you could make the case deserved a better fate, even than the loss that they suffered in Game 2. For the last half of the game, they were every bit as good, if not better, than Montreal. And if it wasn't for the stellar play of Jake Allen, that puppy at the very least is probably going to overtime. So you got a situation there that now what this presents for us as fans of all the teams involved is that Ottawa has now played 3 pretty competitive games. After looking like the scourge of the league, they've made some lineup changes, put some of the kids in addition to some that they already had, and notably Brandstrom, who's been pretty solid in his games, and certainly they're getting some saves from Matt Murray, and the defense seems to have solidified a little bit, and they've bounced back here in these last 3 games. Now they're playing Edmonton tonight, who basically walked them last week, okay? There's a McDavid-Draisaitl show, and they really had springboarded them to the top of the scoring charts here in the NHL. Now, McDavid's probably going to get there anyway, and Draisaitl either right in tow or, whatever. I mean, he surpassed him last year when Connor got hurt, as we know. But they're 1 and a 1A. Excuse me. And what has Ottawa got for them tonight? Because the Senators team that played Montreal should not get walked by the Edmonton Oilers tonight. Now, conversely, Edmonton, who really have not looked good this season at all. They look like a facsimile of everything we've seen from the Oilers in the last couple of years since they went on that little bit of a miracle run there in 2017 or whatever it was. They got screwed by I think, officiating both on and off the ice in their loss in that series to Anaheim. They haven't really done anything since, and they lost to Chicago in the play-in last year. Should never have happened. But Taves and Kane, we all know that. So, what has Edmonton got now tonight with Mike Smith in net? Because Skinner is scary, and he's only had the 1 start, I think. And Koskinen, who's played almost every minute, has been satisfactory at best. So now you've got your starter back, and will he make a difference tonight for them? So that's an interesting game. Otherwise, the other side, Toronto and Vancouver, from a Canadian perspective, I mean, Vancouver looked like probably as bad as I've seen them since the Sedins started those first couple of years, before they actually gained some traction and became the stars that they were in the league, leading the league in scoring and winning Hart trophies and that sort of thing, and helping Vancouver go to a Stanley Cup final. A few years before that, when Vancouver was kind of languishing, before really Bertuzzi and Morrison and that line got going and that team got going under that gang, that's how far back I think you've got to go. The last time I saw a Vancouver entry this week. So that's what do you expect tonight? Now, Toronto did lose Wayne Simmons, a crushing loss because he played so well. Best I've seen him play. He's had some good seasons before, and he's always been a character guy, but he's a Scarborough guy. He's back home, and it doesn't always work for everybody, but it seemed to be working for him. He's been scoring. He's had a couple scraps he's done well in. And I think he took a puck off the hand. So I don't know if it's broken, cracked bone. I didn't hear. But it's a hand injury for sure. I believe is right. And they say 4 to 6. And shouldn't really affect them much. I mean, they're a lock, I think, top 4, barring anything else really unforeseen. And they should walk Vancouver again tonight. But you never know. The Canucks eventually had a pretty good outing against Montreal, and after a bunch of games against them, and maybe tonight they'll have a better effort. But the Leafs are certainly right now look like they're setting up on cruise control. But again, grade the opposition, folks. I know the majority of you aren't watching any other games. You watch your team, maybe one of the other Canadian games, and if you do, you're not sitting down and watching it for 60 minutes. Most of you aren't. That's just our own division, let alone other teams, the American teams. You don't know what's going on out there with the Bruins and the Flyers and the Caps and Carolina and Florida and Vegas. You're not watching those games, and you're not seeing how those teams are constructed top to bottom and the difference, how they're playing, their style, and how I think they would fare against the Leafs or the Habs or the Flames or the Jets or the Oilers, what have you. That's why I don't have any Canadian team ranked in the top 5 right now in the NHL, based on what I've seen and how I grade the opposition so far. Just my opinion. This can all be rectified in May at some point, hopefully. I'll swing over to this on that note. We are now up to 31 games postponed in the NHL this year, with 7 more announced today. Look, Brian Burke said it last week. I'll have to echo his sentiment here. He's of the belief, and I think it's starting to become apparently and abundantly clear, that not most, but a number of NHL teams will quite likely not complete the 56 games. And when it comes time to select the final 4 in these 4 divisions, they will undoubtedly probably have to use winning percentages. We'll be fine, it looks like, knock on wood, here in Canada, with any COVID stuff. We've been very lucky so far, and I think that's just a difference in the countries. It's just population-based, city-based, the spreading down there compared to here, and maybe we've been a little bit more restrictive than they have. I guess you could take maybe out of that sentence. That said, now with these more postponements, you've got a number of teams that I just don't think are going to physically be able to get the games in. Now, look, they could extend the season. I mean, who really cares, right? We just finished having a Stanley Cup awarded with playing games in August and a Stanley Cup awarded on September 28th. If they ended up having to play in July, does it really matter? I don't think so. So the numbers drop down because people are going to flood to their cottages and do whatever. But if your team's in, you're going to watch. And they'll keep the continuity of still being able to award a Stanley Cup. And I think right now, for the basis of the TV contracts, which is really the bulk of any money that's coming in, they're going to find a way. And so to do that and have a playoff, you're going to have probably teams determined, their standings determined by winning percentages. We'll see. But now with the announcement today of 7 more games postponed for your New Jerseys and Minnesotas and Buffaloes, and then conversely who it all affects on the other end, we're in a situation pretty much redlining right now in terms of being able of all teams, all 31 teams, to complete 56 games. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah, just 2 guys. A couple things I want to do on a regular basis here going forward is highlight 2 guys each show. It will always be for an upcoming game. Now again, I should have picked Canadian teams tonight because pretty much everybody watching this will be watching the Canadian teams. I know I have some guys that'll watch me from elsewhere, but I do have 2 guys tonight actually from that Carolina-Columbus game. I'll be watching Ottawa-Edmonton. I'll be flipping around, but I'm trying to pick names. I know you all know these names, but I'm trying to pick names that maybe I can offer a little bit more. And Oliver Bjorkstrand, easy for you to say, is a guy that I've always liked. Now, it's an easy one to pick right now, okay? He's leading Columbus in scoring. He wears number 28 for them. He's a Swede, obviously. He was drafted in 89th overall, I want to say in 2013 or 2014. He was drafted in the 3rd round, so a homegrown product. I love that. So will be my next guy for Carolina. And Oliver is there's a story about him that I like, and not a story so much about him, but just the way that he was handled there in Columbus. He signed a contract, so he's a kid, Swedish kid, comes over here and played 3 years of major junior in Canada. You know, that's what we do here. We have our doors wide open, come one, come all, and we will help every other country become better by coming here and getting the best coaching in the world, which is Canadian Major Junior Hockey. So he played, I believe, in Portland for 3 years, gets drafted, goes to Columbus, signs a contract with them, plays his first year. The season ends for Columbus, and they send, I love this, they send him right down to the American Hockey League, and he plays for their affiliate in Lake Erie, and he tears it up like you would expect. He just played a year in the NHL as a rookie and did well. So they send him down to the American Hockey League, and he tears it up for Lake Erie, and they win the Calder Cup. They sweep the final, and he wins the MVP. You can't tell me that hasn't helped this man grow as a hockey player. He's currently leading the team in scoring. Now, I said last week they're going to be in really tough to make the playoffs, just based the way things are already. Dallas is like 2 points back of them. They got like 5 games in hand. Now, eventually you got to win those games, and Dallas lost their last game. But I really like Bjorkstrand as a player. I know you won't be watching that game tonight, but next time you do, get a look out for him. Number 28, and whoops, that's starting a little early. And watch for him on Columbus. My Carolina player is Brock McGinn, and I just like him as a player. Now, I am a little biased because his brother played here for the Ottawa 67s, and he was a real heart and soul guy. As anybody who remembers the 67s of the mid-2000s, he was, I thought he was an exceptional player for them. I think he had around an 80 or 90-point season his last year, and he's played over 600 games in the NHL. There's also another brother, Ty. So Brock is one of 3 McGinns to have played in the NHL. So there's that family connection again, which is so prevalent in the NHL, and which I love. And they're from a town called Fergus. Now, who knows where Fergus is? Hands up if you know where Fergus is. So it's about 50 miles west of Toronto. And I only drove through it once, never stopped. I don't know what's there for a watering hole, but I guarantee you there's got to be a little spot there somewhere where you can have a cold pint on a hot summer day. And imagine that town producing 3 boys from the same family. I think that's fantastic. So Brock McGinn, I think he's number 23 for the Carolina Hurricanes. It's not like he's lighting it up for them or anything. He's got 3 goals, 9 games. But I love the way he plays. He's a depth player for him right now, but I think he can produce more. And he's a couple years ago, he had a decent season. And look, this is an aberration for every single player, let alone fans, media, executives, and the like. So, but they're playing again tonight after the debacle of the last game, and they're the 2 players that I'm singling out: Oliver Bjorkstrand and Brock McGinn, my 2 players tonight. So there you go. Time for our toast, and then a little 70s tune, which you may have just heard the start of. How many people knew exactly what that song was? Oh, baby! There's another big shot of Jameson's Irish whiskey. If you ever get a chance, find a bottle of 18-year-old Jameson's. Rock Villeneuve says he has some, and he's got to get some over to me. It's the smoothest liquid on the planet Earth. Now, this is regular Jameson's, but 18-year-old Jameson's is the smoothest liquid on the planet Earth, next to the cold mountain streams running through the Connemara Mountains themselves. So I'm going to have a little toast to Jameson's here in a second and introduce my 70s tune. So my toast is going to be to 2 men who just passed away. As it quite often is, we like to honor people here, male, female, young or old. By the way, if you'd like me to toast somebody, I just message me, and I would gladly do it on your behalf. If somebody who's passed that you'd like me to acknowledge here, I've done this before, and I gladly will. In this case here, 2 men in their early 80s. Ralph Backstrom, more of the international fame, has just passed away recently. And Ralph joined the Montreal Canadiens, came up. He's one of the many guys from Kirkland Lake. In fact, Out of all the players from Kirkland Lake, nobody accumulated more points in the National Hockey League than Ralph Backstrom. And he'll always be noted as the man who, with the Montreal Canadiens, won 6 Stanley Cups. He was a Calder Trophy winner, Rookie of the Year 1959, and won those last 2 of the 5 Cups in a row with the Habs, for winning again in 65, 66, 68, 69. So kind of a neat configuration there. He won 6 Cups, and in 3 cases, he won back-to-back. It's just kind of neat. He won 58, 59, 65, 66, 68, 69. And 83 years old. His contributions off the ice, for everything he did for inline skating, inline hockey, the minor hockey in and around Colorado and the Denver area, what he did in the WHA after when he left the NHL and played while he was still a player. And the last note, really, but not least, was the trade that Montreal sent Ralph Backstrom to the Los Angeles Kings on January 26, 1971, which was Wayne Gretzky's 10th birthday. I know you were all just saying that. That trade propelled LA ahead of the California Seals, which allowed Montreal to still have the opportunity to draft first overall, because they had secured California's pick the year before, and that gave them the chance to take numero 10, Guy Lafleur. So Ralph's even tied in to Guy Lafleur going to the Montreal Canadiens. Imagine that. So I'll be toasting Ralph here. And Alec McManus is a local man who passed away about a little over a week ago now. Alec and his wife Frances, Alec and Franny, they're Osgood people. I live here in the village of Osgood. I've been here 21, 22 years. I started my minor hockey here myself in the Osgood Rideau. Well, it was really just Osgood at the time. There was no Rideau because there was no rink in Rideau until I was in midget in 75. But Alec McManus was a coach, a minor hockey coach. His sons, Mike and Kevin, played. Kevin played up to the junior B level. He was an excellent hockey player. He still is a very, very good friend of mine. And really saddened to hear the passing of his dad. Anyone who knows the family, if you know Kevin, you'll know where he got his sense of humor. He got it from his dad. His dad was quick-witted, very glib, very fast with the one-liners, very passionate man, loved hockey, loved his family, loved his friends. When you think of Alec McManus, for me personally, it's very, very hard not to think of 2 other guys, Howard Paul and Butch Bisbee, Mr. Bisbee, Eugene Bisbee, and of course their wives. You know, this is a case where these couples, and there were more, but those ones are the ones that really stand out for me. And that's just, it's a passage of time, right? We know none of us are getting out of here alive, and it still doesn't dampen or lessen the fact that it still saddens everybody when you hear that type of passing. And Kevin's really just recently come back into a lot of our lives. And, you know, he was away, not so much out of the country or out of the area, but just away from, I guess, locally and doing other things. And we've just all reconnected with him recently, and it's been great. And so it's very sad to hear the passing of his father. So I'll be toasting both of them. And the song you just heard, and we're going to go out every week, every show, with a 70s tune. And this one of my favorite tunes goes way, way back. I was a student at St. Leonard's when this came out. It's called Love Grows Where My Rosemary Goes. Now, it's by a group. It's a made-up name, Edison Lighthouse. The lead singer was a man named Tony Burrows. He was a session singer. And what he did was, so he would gather a group of musicians, and they were all writers, and they were all composers and lyricists and everything, and they put these tunes together in the late 60s and early 70s. And look, he was really good. He's a good singer, and he's a great musician. So they would put these tunes together, and they had a bunch of hits with them. But they were session groups. They weren't touring as these groups. So they just needed these names. You know, and it could be anything. It could be like, you know, White Plains, for example. He had a big hit with them, and he had a big hit with this song, and so he called the group Edison Lighthouse. And years ago, when the internet started in the mid-'90s, quick story, finished in my toast. When the internet started, I love this song, and I Googled him, tried to track him down, and I found out he was in California, not L.A., I don't know, somewhere outside of some town anyway, outside of San Jose, I think. And he was in doing a series of shows there. at this bar. And so I got the number of the bar and I phoned it. I actually got it. Now, mind you, I was pretty full. 3-hour time difference, right? I phoned about 11 o'clock. No, a little earlier than that. About 10 o'clock our time. About 7 o'clock their time. And I actually got him on the phone. And I think I originally was telling him I was a media guy wanting to do an interview, but I think he could tell right away I had a few in me. And then he realized I wasn't trying to put him on. I just was so anxious to talk to him. It was so cool. And he ended up cutting the conversation short. But I did talk to him for a few minutes in 1996, I think it was. Long time ago. That's 25 years. So there you have it. So this is the song. There you go. Look at it. You see that? Let's see it. I don't know if you really see that, man, but that's the old video anyway. It's a good tune. Love grows where my rosemary goes. And in honor of Ralph Backstrom and Alec McManus, that's the toast today with Irish whiskey. Keep your stick on the ice. Come at you in a couple days with another one of these. G'day.